Today I am joining you from our newly renovated ballroom, and you're lucky enough to be the first ones to see it. So I'd just like to show you our new space. The building works have been ongoing for over 6 months now, and the painters were in this morning doing some finishing touches, so we really are the first ones to be in the space, even if it is just digitally. Unfortunately, we couldn't all be here in the space today, but we look forward to welcoming you for events in future, from the MACFEST festivals to cinema events and music gigs, as well as wedding receptions and family celebrations. Our event today is a demonstrative workshop on how to draw and paint flowers inspired by the Mughal Empire of India, and will be led by Ashfia Ashrif. Beautiful, bold floral patterns often adorn the walls of Mughal Courts of India. Ashvia will speak briefly about the enchanting, rich and grand floral empire that controlled much of South Asia between the 16th and 19th centuries. During the workshop, please feel free to ask questions. You can do this by raising your hand to speak or leaving your question in the chat box if you would like me to raise a question for you. I would like to give a brief introduction to Ashvia. Ashvia is a Manchester-based artist and a student of traditional arts. Her work is mainly floral-based and pattern-based and often illuminated in gold leaf. Ashfia has a BSc in Management Sciences from the University of Manchester, but she later studied geometry, Persian miniature painting, manuscript and Ottoman illumination through several courses at the Prince's School of Traditional Art in London. She's also attended manuscript illumination courses with Aisha Gamiat and her Windsor Art Studio, and studied some geometry and art of Islamic pattern from Richard Henry and Adam Williamson. She has also studied the history of Islamic art and architecture at Oxford University. She is currently learning from a Tezip master in Turkey, which will lead on to an apprenticeship program in the master, leading to further intense studies to gain ijaza. I said it right, ijaza. For Ashvia, creating a piece of artwork is also like dhikr. She feels it's a meditative process and helps her focus and be present. She has also run some meditative art workshops privately on Turkish motifs, flowers of paradise and Persian rosettes. This helps her to practice her work and share her knowledge with others. Ashvia, thank you for being with us here today.
Hello, everybody. It's lovely to be here. Okay, so before we actually make a start, I'm just going to I'll try not to say too much because Joe's given a brilliant introduction already. But I thought that for anybody who actually wanted to kind of participate a little bit, I would just let you know what materials you would actually require. So first of all, you'd need like a chosen image. And you can get that from, you can actually just Google Mughal flowers, or you can have a look. There's usually some free resources on the Victoria and Albert Museum website as well. They usually have some pictures. But other than that, this is the book that I've taken the image from. I don't know if you can see from there, but it's called Pattern and Ornament in the Arts of India. And I chose, it's brilliant because it's got so much by way of Mughal art and pattern and some resources so that you can actually recreate these patterns yourself as well. So I chose a floral image, which is this one, which you've been seeing in all the adverts and event on the in the brochures and things. So that's the one that we've chosen. So what you would do is photocopy this so that you didn't ruin your book or anything. But otherwise, like I said, you can probably get this off Google as well and print yourself a copy of it. Okay, so the kind of materials that you would need is firstly your chosen image, good quality cardboard or 300 GSM cold pressed paper, and some tracing paper for transferring the image, a drawing pencil, any is fine, and some fine brushes. Winsor and Newton are quite good. I'll be using, I've got a collection here in my MACFEST mug. Yeah, so, but I will be using sizes 3-0 and 10-0, and you can get these from any of the art shops. And then we'll be using gouache paints today because they are more opaque. Any make is fine. And then I've got some just ordinary black ink as well. This is for our outline, because if you can probably tell that these images, they're very bright and clear, and it is because obviously they've been outlined as well. So black ink, and that's it really. These are the materials that you would need. And just briefly, so we did mention that floral design and pattern was always very popular in, oh sorry, can we start our slides please? Have we? Oh, brilliant, thank you. So if we move on to the first slide. And the next one, we've been through the materials, that's fine. History of Mughal, yeah, that's fine. So floral design and pattern was always very popular in South Asian art. It became more prominent in the 17th and 18th centuries during the Mughal Empire, which was originally founded in 1526 when King Darbar, a descendant of Genghis Khan and Timur the Great from Uzbekistan, conquered Delhi and Agra and ruled over most of the Indian subcontinent. So the inspiration for these flowers and everything, it's totally from nature, because Darbar was a great lover of plants, gardens, and he loved to organize and create beautiful gardens. So, you know, like you've got Shalimar Gardens that come from the Mughal times and all the other beautiful gardens in India and everything. So that's where the inspiration comes from, his love of flowers. And it was later then also shared by later generations of Mughal emperors, particularly Jahangir, who reigned during 1605 to 27, who at the time asked his artist Mansur to paint over 100 spring flowers. Now the flowers painted by Mansur and other artists for Jahangir became more stylized under Shah Jahan, and later evolved into like widely used decorative motifs. So they were naturalistic and kind of moved over to more stylized. And then the motifs and floral patterns were also then widely used on walls and for external decoration as well, carved into walls on soft furnishings, and later spreading into general commercial use as well, and went on to undergoing like some changes during the late 17th and 18th centuries with some European and Chinese influence. So I'm sorry if I'm going a little bit fast, it's just so that we can get to our drawing and everything. Okay, so as explained, I took this image from this book. So I think I've already shown you the illustration that I've taken. And what we're going to try and achieve, if we can move on to the next slide, sorry, Steve, I should probably be telling you. The next one, we've just been through that. And the next one. Okay, so this is the image we'll be using. Can we go to the next one as well? And this is what we'll achieve at the end. And then what do we have at the end of this? We can make a start, I think, on our drawing. If you want to just run that through till the end, and that's fine. You can just quickly go through these slides. That's fine. Yeah, some of them might be repeats of. And the lovely MACFEST brochures there and cards. Okay, yeah. Excellent, thank you. Okay, so we're gonna make a start on our work now. And where's my image? We'll use this one. I photocopied one for us. So I hope that you can all, are you all able to see? Oh, it moved position. Is that okay for everybody? Can you all? Is it okay, Joe?
So everyone, there is a second screen that you can look at, which just has Ashfia's hands, and that's where she'll be doing the demonstration from, if you can all see that.
Oh, thank you. Right. Okay, so firstly, we have some tracing paper here. And there's the image. And I'm just going to tape that on, just using some sellotape, really. Or you can use masking tape, that's even better. Because what you don't want is for it to tear your image or your tracing paper. So just need a little bit just to hold it in place. And if you're using sellotape, just maybe on your shirt, just make it a little less tacky. And then stick it down onto your piece of work. I could actually stick it on this board if I want, but oh, this is better. Okay, so that's done. That's better. So you can now take, again, it doesn't really matter which pencil you use. So I'm just going to take some from here. It's just these pencils, ordinary ones. Okay, so if you make a start on your tracing, and this can be very therapeutic. I'm just conscious, can you actually see 1 second? That's better.
That's perfect.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know how I managed to kind of move that a little bit then. So if you start, you can start on one side and start tracing the first flower. You'll find this process quite nice and relaxing as well at the same time. I always do. So you're just going to outline each of these just like this. So nice, quick, swift pencil movement. The curves. And don't worry about like all the detail. At this stage, you just need an outline of everything. And some of you might have done this actually at school, where you do tracing and transferring. I'm not sure what's actually in your art curriculum and stuff, but they do. I remember doing it at school also. It's also like a technique that my teacher uses as well, even in our Tahzeeb classes. We also use tracing paper to create patterns of our own as well. Like when tessellating and everything, tracing paper makes it really easy to create. Okay, so you will do both of those two flowers for today. And then it should, once it's done, it will look like this. Sorry, just to save us a bit of time, I thought I would do this one for us. It's this way, yeah. Okay. What you would then do is take it off your image. We don't need this now. And on our chosen board, pencil side, we want to be placing down. And again, we'll need a little bit of tape. Just a little bit of tape just to kind of hold it in place for you. At the top, like that. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we are going to draw over what we've traced. So in the same way, again, no special pencils, same pencil's fine, and just go over your outline, like so.
So Ashvia, just to confirm, you've placed the tracing paper face down.
Face
so where
down.
you've previously drawn is now in contact with the paper itself.
Yeah.
And we're retracing to transfer over onto the paper, is that right?
That is perfect, that's correct, yes. Yeah, this is now our design. We're transferring our design now onto our board. Yeah. So we're just going to go over the same lines. If, however, you wanted these flowers to be facing the other way, then what you would do is you can either retrace that pattern or just on the back of it, go over it in pencil. And then that way you can flip it either way and do your pattern, because the one that I will show you next is basically where I flipped it over, and I thought I would do it the other way around instead, because we've already got one that's done on this side. So, but you'll see that in a second.
Wow, and can you use this same tracing paper multiple times?
Yeah, so you can keep this tracing and use it as many times as you want for practice and everything. Yeah.
So Nilafar has asked, where can we get the artwork to trace from? We did upload into this chat earlier on a file so that you can download it, but do you have any other places, Ashvia, that you get artwork to trace from?
Artwork to trace from, yeah, sorry. I tend to use books that I've purchased myself, but like otherwise from when you Google, I actually Googled some images by just putting in Mughal floral designs, and so many came up. And I know that you might think of, you know, like that you might not be able to but a lot of them kind of don't have copyright written on them. So the ones that are you know, restricted, they will have copyright written on them or something. But there's loads of clear images actually just on the internet, to be honest. So if you didn't, you know, want to actually go and buy the books and stuff, then you could just download it from there. But Victoria and Albert's really good. They've got like loads of patterns on there, and especially Mughal floral ones. And then there's, what I can do is we can email you if I can think of any other ideas, I can email you guys later, or provide some places where you can find them.
So Susan missed the beginning of this tutorial, and she's just asking which book that it came out of, this particular pattern.
Sorry about that. Right,
That's
so it's Pattern and Ornament in the Arts of India. I used this one, which I actually picked up at Whitworth Art Gallery, I think. Yeah. Beautiful. It's brilliant. It's got loads of, like, even this one would be nice to make. See the one on the inside of the cover. There's some really gorgeous. It's quite a good book because it actually gives you like some resources. Like, for example, to create the pattern on the left, you could use this template on this side. So the book is designed to help you create. And there's loads in here. So it's a good one to have. I think it was about maybe £20 or, yeah. And you can get it off Amazon and places. Don't want to.
We have a comment that someone else has this book too, and she finds it great. There is a question here quickly saying, I think the Mughal art is more realistic, but my question is, what were the themes of Mughal painting?
The themes? I would say mostly flowers, gardens, And I know on the other day on the radio show, somebody was saying that that perhaps they didn't like painting figures and animals and like beings, people, that kind of thing. But actually, when I was writing up a paper about this, and I did my research, I actually realized that it's not restricted in any way. And in Mughal art, they do actually use, because when you look at the miniature paintings, they're just basically stories about people. And there's you'll see loads of like beings in them and animals and everything. So the theme is around everything, and nature in particular, I would say, just nature, yeah.
And Hajra has asked, are we following along? Are we watching and then going to draw in our own time? I guess we're doing a bit of both, aren't we, Ashfia?
Yeah, we can do a bit of both today. But as I was, we were discussing this earlier, the video will be available. So you should be able to go through this again in your own time and then follow it through. You can stop and start when you have that. So once we've traced this back onto, or rather transferred it onto here, so this is what it should look like. So I don't know if you can, maybe if I turn it around. So it's coming through on the other side. Yeah.
Yeah, we can see that.
So to save us time, I've got one here. And if you're one of those people who likes to kind of doesn't like any gaps, because sometimes when you're transferring a pattern, you'll find like maybe you've missed a little bit of the petal, just draw it in, because you know, if you feel that you need to have the whole of it. But some people kind of work from very faint guidelines because they don't like pencil showing up in their work later. But this should be fine, and it won't show up in our work later. This should be okay. So I'm just going to clip it onto this so it doesn't move out of place. So now we've got our image ready, and this is the exciting bit. I don't know what's the best bit. I can never decide. I like every bit. But some people like to do the painting. So just in case we might want to do this a little bit differently than the other one that we did, but we'll still try and follow our color theme from the image, the picture from the book. So we're going to use like reds, greens, and this is the gouache paint that I mentioned earlier. Now, I generally use Winsor & Newton, but this is what I'm using at the moment in my classes, and this is by Talons. It's another make, but you can use any gouache. So I've picked out a few colors just to, because I have like so many, so it would have been really hard for me to root through otherwise. So I've narrowed it down to a few, and we will start opening one of them in a second. And the brush that I'm going to use is, I'm going to use one of the ones that I told you to in the list. So we'll start using one of these. So you need some water. Probably failed to mention that, but you know that anyway. So, okay, and then we'll start using our first color. I think we should start with the leaves, and we'll do a leaf or something, and then we'll go on to petals. So for the leaves, I'm going to use a few different greens, because I think when I showed you the image, there were a few different kind of shades in there. There are so many different techniques. There is one where you just use one color and you make so many different colors by just, from that, so many different shades by just adding water to it. And they use that in a technique called munhani. And then there's another one. Another technique is where you actually use different shades of that same color. So that's a little bit different. Like for example, you've got here, we're going to do that technique where we're just going to use different greens to kind of achieve our image. So I've got here this green. Let's have a look which one it is. So we're going to use some light green, and we've got some sap green, and what's this one? A deep green as well. That'll be nice to use as well. These are all gorgeous greens. So I think we should start with the darker one, the sap, which actually is not. Okay, so that we don't ruin our brush, we will just use like a small little spatula thing just to take out a little bit. Gouache goes a long way, by the way. If you've not used it before, you only need like a tiny bit. I'll show you on here, that's better. Sorry. So you only need like a tiny bit. And then you'll use like the back of your brush. By the way, you don't have to get long brushes. You have options. I just kind of, because I don't have many long brushes, I just kind of went for the longer length one, but normally this length is fine as well. And these are the same brushes that you'd probably use in like your Persian miniatures. So I'm going to use like the back of my brush to get a few drops of water and add them to my paint. Like so. And what you want is a really nice kind of, a really nice texture, like maybe thinner than single cream. Just trying to think of an example of what kind of texture, but like this, you can probably tell. Okay, so try and keep it where you can see this. And I keep it close to my painting. The other thing I like to do is, so that I don't ruin my nice white paper, I usually just keep a tissue here handy. And we start painting, and we want to paint just within our guidelines. So if you want to create like have like a dark area and then a lighter shade, so all you have to do is just add a little bit of water and just continue with it like this. These paintings, from what I could, when I was studying them, I can see that these are the kind of paintings where they've kind of like added layers of paint to them and built the color, the required color. So if you were not entirely happy with that and wanted like another shade in that, we can add that in a second as well to kind of get that same look as what was in the book. So I feel that this is a little bit too light, so I am going to go for a darker. Or you can alternatively also add a little bit of brown or black to it. Brown, a little bit of brown would make it a nice green as well. But we're going to try and use one of these existing colors. Just add a little bit here on this side. Need another tissue. Always clean out your brush so that you don't have any of the existing, although we're going to kind of paint on that anyway, but still. Back of your brush to add a bit of water. You'll notice that gouache is very nice and opaque. It's different from watercolors. So it gives a nice even color. So if you wanted to paint this petal entirely in one color, it would still look gorgeous.
Ashvia, Nilafar has asked, is it mainly watercolors used, or can we work with acrylics?
You can do. You can work with acrylics as well, yeah. I tend to, for my work, I tend to use gouache. But you can use other, I don't know what it's like actually, I'll be honest, to paint with acrylics. But you could have a go and see how it works out. I'm sure it'll come out just as beautiful. It'll have like probably a different look to it as well. And it'll be the same, I guess, with oil painting. When you do oil painting, that'll have a completely different look. And the way, obviously, you can still produce detail actually from even those kind of paints, but in a different way. And there's like different techniques for that, actually, completely different. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Building up in acrylics is quite different to building up in gouache.
Yeah. This for me seems like easier actually, but I suppose somebody who works with acrylics all the time will find that easier. Yeah. So actually, I don't know why I went over the same leaf. We didn't have to, but could have tried a different one.
Oh, Nilafar comes from a family of painters, so especially one of her uncles. So she's finding this really interesting. She's got a background in painting within the family.
That's nice. Lovely to hear. So I find that with these kind of paintings, I always just take my time. I'm very slow at it, but I try to paint within the lines and everything. So I try and be as neat as possible, and I take my time over it. But you know, some of you might be really quick at this. And so I want to add, actually, wanted to kind of like give it different shades and everything. So a bit like how I did on the other painting, but the one that you guys have been actually seeing in the in all the leaflets and everything. And so you can add a bit more. This is a little bit like how they work on miniatures. They kind of like keep layering it until they've got like that desired effect that they want. So you can even mix these two greens now as you maybe have a little bit of the other green showing through, like that. Don't know how visible it is. Can you tell, or should I move it around the other way so you could? I've only done 2 tiny leaves at the moment, but.
Oh yeah, that's a lot more visible now.
So I think from time to time, I will try and show you like this in different light. I've got like all the lamps on in here and the lights. And it's just that it's actually, unfortunately, a little bit of a dull day today, isn't it? Because I'm sat by this big window as well. And I thought that it'd be nice to get loads of light in. But because it's quite a grey, a grim day today, so it's not helped. Okay, so I think try and maybe I'll do a bigger leaf so that we can get a better picture. I'm going to add a little bit more water on this one. All right, let's do a bigger leaf. Like this one, for example. I don't know if I mentioned which brush I'm using. This is a 3-0 and a watercolor brush. And it's fine because it's not too thin and you get enough paint on it. But it's also not too thick. And I want to add a little bit of this other green because I like it.
So Susan has asked that the brush you're using is very long handled. Is there a reason why it's so long?
No, not at all. I just chose to use this one. You don't have to have it. You don't have to have the long ones. Most of my other ones are actually shorter, but it's just that sometimes I don't like being so close to the paper. So I like hold it from here. But there's no reason for it. But I'm sure like I think these are generally used like in miniatures and stuff when they're layering. But there's no, for me personally, I can use either. It's just that I quite liked these. These are by Rosemary and Co. and they're Kolinsky Sable. And when I was ordering them actually, when I was ordering them, they did actually have ones that were like, sorry, they had actually ran out of the ones that were shorter. But then I saw these and I thought, oh, I don't actually have any long ones. So I thought I'd get a couple. And they're actually really nice to work with. Whereas when you're working with the smaller ones, I guess if you want to be closer to the paper, then yeah. But I'm sure there's like probably more technical things around that than what I've explained. But my personal reasons, I don't mind either. It makes no difference to me personally. As long as they're fine and good quality, yeah. And Kolinsky Sable is, yeah, it's one of the finest ones. And the Winsor and Newton ones are also very good to use. My teacher uses those. So I'm just basically at the moment, I am trying to, I'm not using any particular technique. I'm trying to fill my leaves with like as many different shades of green because that's what the image was like. It was like dark and light green mostly. And there was also like a much darker shade of green, which we can use, which we can create actually by adding a little bit of brown in a second, which I'll show you.
So would you start with your light layers first, Ashvia, and then build up the darkness on top? Or is it just depending on the look you want to get?
It depends on the look that you want to get. For this particular one, I kind of didn't really, I wasn't too fussed about which colors and everything I used first, but normally when, if I'm doing a certain type, a certain style of painting, like Munhani, for example, that is done, so if you're following a particular style, that is one style where you would actually paint the lightest, like this one, the watered down shade first. And I'll actually, in fact, we can do one because this is just for practice. So this is how you would do it if you did want to use that particular technique. But for me at the moment, I was just using different shades of green, and I wasn't too bothered about how I started. I think these two I started with darker and then kind of worked my way out with lighter. But there is this one technique that I've actually been working on recently, so it's a nice one to show you. So what you would do is create your lightest shade with one, you would only use one color. So create your lightest shade first, paint the entire leaf with that, like this. And then make a middle, but you'd have to wait then for that to dry before you can actually then paint the next shade. So it would be 3 shades you would do in that particular technique. So on the side here, what you will do is create a middle shade even, yeah, from that same color, using a little bit more water. And then what you would do, so this should actually be darker than this one. And then you do your second layer, which will be like this. I don't know if you can you see? What I'll do is once I've painted it, I will show you properly. So you will now have like your second layer there. And then you would have a final layer, which will be the darkest. And normally you would wait for this to dry because otherwise it'll just spread. But here, now you would add. So that's one technique, but you can also work the other way around as well. There's no right or wrong. It's just how you prefer and what you find easier.
It's nice to see the different effects that you can get from the various techniques as well.
Yeah. So it would be something like that then.
Oh, I think
You have three different, whereas there you've just used different shades of green. Here you've used that same green, you've got your darkest shade there, but we started, like you said, having a nice wash of the lightest, then we went for our medium, and then we went for our darkest. And it would have been more prominent if you waited for each layer to dry and then do the next layer. That would be better, but
would sit on top more correctly, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. Yeah, but because of our timing, we will just kind of do it this way.
Yeah,
and it still looks fine.
So we have a question. What's a good make for water-based paints that you use?
Winsor & Newton's good, and then you've got that designer gouache, Talons, Arteza. Arteza has become very popular recently. You can use any of these for watercolors and gouache. They do both. But there's even like places like Hobbycraft do their own. Yeah. And then,
do you find the quality is as good as using Winsor & Newton, for example?
That's the finest. I would say that is one of the finest. Yeah, and Talons, they're the best quality. Arteza is quite good as well. It's very good. But yeah, Winsor & Newton, I find you can't go wrong. Perfect color every time. Sound like an advert. Okay, so I know I was going to try and show you like how to create a carpet by not using the actual dark green, but creating our own. Just going to show you a nice way to some colors here. I'm going to use a little bit of brown, dark brown that I've got here. Thinking of adding a little bit here. Not too much. You only need, like, with gouache, the beauty is that you only need like a tiny bit and it just goes such a long way. Like that paint, there's going to be loads left afterwards, even with this. Even if you painted all your painting with it, it's brilliant. It's a bit like watercolor, it just keeps going. So I've just mixed a little bit of brown here into this just to make this green more interesting. Yep. And I was going to add it to this. Maybe in the tips of this one as well. Around here, just to contour it a bit. Interesting to see what it looks like in this as well. And then just a little bit of water if you wanted to blend it. And you'll have something like that. These are coming out a little bit lighter because I've used lighter shades this time. But you can use darker greens as well. I just didn't want it to look exactly like the other one. I just thought it'd be nice to do it a little bit different. Okay. Equally, you can also add a little bit of yellow to it to give it some depth to the green. Let's just try and finish this a little bit more. I'm going to add a little bit more of that other green shade to this because I think I like that more. So the nice thing about this kind of painting is you can keep creating like different a different look to your painting by each layer that you add, and keep perfecting it until you get your desired kind of look. And I think we should maybe do a petal or something. So let's move on to other nicer colours, nice colours even.
Yes, we're just about halfway through now, Ashvia.
Oh, okay, that's nice. That's fine. No, we've got enough time. That's great. Thank you. I've just picked a red. It looks very nice and vibrant. See which one it is. Carmine. Carmine. That's a Talon's shade. Sometimes the different makes, they have their own shades as well, and but like I think sap green is kind of like in all of them, and then they'll have like ultramarine. These are like your main colors actually that you use in these kind of paintings, and your emerald green and those kind of colors. Okay, so I'm just going to use a little bit of that to start a petal. I wonder if I clean this. Now in the book, the petal, like on this, on the bigger flower, it seemed to have like loads of different, like it had red and orange shades. So I have actually picked out some orangey, yellowy shades as well to add to it. So it looks like that they've used different colors rather than using the one color to create further. So I will also do it in the same way. Let's pick this one here. If you feel like this is a small, because with it being sorry, I moved myself again. Sometimes you've got like smaller areas. So if you feel that the brush is too thick for you to use, you could try using maybe 5-0 or something to do those areas, and then go back to the 3-0 to do the bigger area. But I'm going to kind of stick with this brush because yeah, I feel quite comfortable with it. And I'm going to do this all in red. And it's really nice. It's like a pinky red color. I've not done any shading in that. I've literally just gone into it. However, on the inner petal, I will do though. I will use a little bit of that same red, but maybe wash it down a little bit. I'm going to start with this corner here. And work my way out like this. And in the book, there's like an orangey shade in that. So I'm going to add a little bit of this color. This is a nice orange. Deep yellow it's called though, yeah. But we can create our orange from this as well. We'll add it to this. and just create another gorgeous color from that. Take a drop from here, add that in. Don't know if you can see, yeah, here. And I still want a kind of a bit more of a peachy orange, so I'm going to wash that brush out, take a bit more of this delicious color here and add that. Can you see how like the colors just get more and more gorgeous as you, sometimes it's really hard to know when to stop because you're thinking, well, let's add a bit more and see what happens. So you can create loads of lovely, and I like this one. So we'll use this. We'll use this on our, and I'm going to actually even go over a little bit in this corner.
Hajra has commented that it's so calming to watch you paint, and it reminds her of the art TV shows she used to watch as a child.
Yeah, it is very calming, and when you're painting yourself as well, you do feel really relaxed, and yeah, that's nice. You feel quite relaxed. And, you know, you just can't go wrong, no matter what you're, you know, painting or creating. There's no such thing as like that it'll go wrong, because you can just correct it to how you want it, and basically as long as you think it's beautiful, that's all that matters. And I'm going to add a little bit of, literally sometimes all you need to do is place a dot of the color, and then the rest of it just almost just with your brush, just guide it through like that, and you can just create so many.
Oh, wow. We've got a comment from Barbara saying it's gorgeous and fascinating and beautiful.
Oh, thanks, Barbara. Oh, so you know what would be really good? Like normally when we have these workshops, we do this in person, and like it's really nice with everybody kind of like having a go and stuff. So yeah, it's nice then to kind of like see how everyone else paints as well, and you know, like everybody paints beautifully really, so it's nice to see everyone's work. You can carry on working on this petal for as long as you like, but so far that's how far I've got on this one in my shade creating. So you can even maybe try another red. Oh no, have I picked up the same red? Yeah, I have. No, I wanted to try a different one. So this one here, let's try a really nice bright red, because the other one was like more pinkish. Let's try this one. Yeah, so I find painting quite therapeutic as well. Sometimes like after I've had like a stressful day at work, which you do often in financial services, yeah, so you feel like you need to just de-stress. So I actually find it quite calming just doing my homework for my class. And my next class is on Wednesday, and I have loads of homework to do for that actually. So here I've just picked a really bright red. And we'll do another petal, and I'm thinking which one should we do? Let's do another interesting one. I've moved it out of your way. There is actually another technique as well that I'm just remembering now, and it's one where literally you do very fine strokes like this. It's called Halgar, but it's a completely different. So I won't be doing it on here, but we can just, I can just quickly show you. So that is literally done in that way that I've just done that. So we're going to go over it now, and it's basically just very tiny strokes. So you start off with your darkest color here, and then you just do very light strokes like that, and then the strokes get further and further away as you go. But that's a completely different, it's a different technique that we use in Tazip. But for this, we don't need to do that, so I'm just going to go over it. It had so many different shades of red in this rose, so I was just going to try and use as many different ones as I can too. And we can create them by adding a little bit of the yellow or the orange to it. Maybe even creating a middle shade using these two. And our lightest shade by just using some water and just working with the existing paint that we've already got on the paper. You have to remember that that is the other side of the petal, of the other side of the flower actually. So we just don't want to paint over that bit. Yeah, that's right. And in fact, yeah, that's better. I must have missed a line when I've traced it. Let's add a little bit of that really delicious colour that we made before.
So Ashvia, how do you plan your different colour tones for different sides of the flowers?
For this particular piece, I just kind of just went along with what I saw in the actual picture and tried to do it as much as similar to that as I could. So really that did the planning for me. But when I am painting my own work, in fact, I'll show you an example actually. We can come back to this. So I'm working on something at the moment. That was the right folder. So I'm working on something at the moment, which is this. And I basically just decided, I picked these two colors because I felt that they just went well with the picture. It was already quite a busy sort of a pattern. So this is like a border, and this kind of work is called munhani, where basically we're just going to be using, we're only using two colors. And even within that, the shades, the lilac and the purple, they just come from the one color. I don't know how well you can kind of see that.
We can see that. Nilafar has asked for names of different styles. So we were just saying Munhani is the one where you would use one color tone but lighten it using different amounts of water in it. And what are the ones that you're using on what we're painting today? What's the style name?
Yes, to be honest, during the Mughal times, I noticed that it was a lot of flat color that was used. So I don't even know actually the technique that they would have used mostly, but it did look like flat color basically, like where you can actually just paint the whole petal in the one color, because if you looked at the book, that's what it but they would have also, like when when they would have created all these kind of artworks and everything, they would have probably have gone for one of the techniques, but I couldn't tell from this particular picture what technique had been used. To me, it actually looked just like flat color when I was looking at it. So let's look at it in the book, because when I recreated it, I've probably added more shade to it just to make it a bit more interesting. But then you've got to remember that these images are they're from like so many years ago. So they'll have some fading as well. But look, see, it's quite, and that is also a technique actually that's used in Tehzeeb, in this kind of work. I've got a painting that's actually on the wall, which I was going to show you, which is total flat color, and that's quite popular in Islamic art, where you literally just use the color as you paint as it is. And I can't remember now what the actual technique is called. But I'll just see if I can actually take it down and show you. Okay, so see, this is on the wall, and you'll have to excuse me if there's dust on it. But basically, all that I've used here is 24 karat gold leaf, and next to it is just pure ultramarine gouache. I've done no shading in it, nothing. It's flat color. And I think a lot of the old Qurans, when they've done all the, because it was very fine detail, so they will have just used flat color and occasionally dotted it with a tiny, maybe if they did want to shade some of the flowers, then yeah, they've done it like by just literally dotting bits of paint, or like maybe creating, like in the Munhani, a lighter shade first and then adding a darker, slightly darker, and then a dot literally towards the end. But I do see, I've seen a lot of kind of flat color being used in manuscripts, especially the ones that, like, I see on, if you go on Instagram, so many people are kind of doing a lot of this work as well at the moment. You find when you start doing it yourself, you find like so many other people who are doing it as well. And then when you look at their work, you'll see it is flat color. Like literally, when I say flat color, I mean literally how that painting is, like I've just shown you, that they've just used that one color. And I'm not actually sure what they call that technique. We just call it illumination, Tehzeeb, because that's what it actually is.
So would that mainly be used to really showcase the geometry within and the patterns within whatever you're painting?
Yeah, but even in geometry as well, you can use you can do it as like straight flat color, but more recently I've been seeing a lot of patterns where they've kind of used, like, this is when I say flat color, like the pattern on this plate, it's, you know, like they've not done any shading on it or anything, and I've been seeing a lot recently where they have shaded it, so they'll start off like dark in the corners and then maybe lighter towards the center, and that looks really pretty when they do those gorgeous geometry patterns. And then like they'll do light and dark, same shades, and it just makes the pattern even more beautiful as well.
It can tend to make it come alive a little bit, a bit more 3D, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right, with your shading and everything. Yeah. And also, I mean, I know that I'm giving the terms that I'm using at the moment will be specific to, because I'm studying you know, like at the moment, because I'm studying Tehzeeb, so I'm using those terms. But in English, they'll have different names anyway. So yeah, so I don't know what these techniques are called in English at all, so I'm sorry about that. But yeah, but in Tehzeeb, those are the ones that I've mentioned. They're like the main ones. And whenever we've done any like simple flat painting, just using like one color without any shades at all and keeping the color all level as one, the art teacher hasn't really given it any particular name. She's just kind of like said that to just paint it in the one color kind of thing. Yeah. So I hope that kind of answers the question.
Yeah, we had Munhani, we've got the flat painting, and was there one more? What's the technique you're using at the moment?
Oh, this one, as I was saying, I was just literally trying to paint what I saw in the book.
Yeah.
So I have no idea what.
We're not sure what this one is.
No description in the book, to be honest. Yeah, but as I was saying, that in a lot of the Mughal paintings and miniatures, they have just used different colors and just basically added water to change, like, just to make it look a little bit lighter and darker. And I feel they've used a mix of techniques, actually.
Yeah, well, actually, when you were painting and you've painted each leaf and each petal differently, it kind of shows that you're interpreting it in various styles that you're learning about, and not necessarily keeping exactly to what they're doing, but interpreting it slowly with what you've learned.
Yeah, yeah, I have added like bits that I've learned myself as well over the past few years. But yeah, it's what you feel, I guess, comfortable with as well. When you're actually studying it, though, when you're studying traditional art, they do actually prefer you to do it exactly as it is, to honor that artist, especially if you're recreating a famous artist's work, for example. They would like you to stick with what you see and, you know, choose those, like, not the actual artist, but like the teachers will often say, you know, you should honor that and just do it exactly the same, because, you know, it's really that artist's work. They might not have wanted you to add your own, you know, color theme to it, but
And that's how you learn, is copying what's already happened, and then when you do your own original work, you can just put your own twist onto it, do it the way you like the most from what you've learned. We've got about 20 minutes left, Ashvia. Is there anything else you want to show us?
Yes, I'm going to show you something else as well while I just finish that. So I've just added like so many. Yeah. Lighting in here is not very good, but you can always just add a bit of water to blend it. This technique is, I'd probably say that it's a bit similar to a miniature, in the sense that you're adding layers of paint over the same bit until you get to a desired look. So it's probably it'll be the same technique that is what they use in miniatures, because I actually did do like some Persian miniatures when I was at the Princess School for a week. We did learn to do Persian miniatures, and again, she didn't give the technique any name, but what she actually said was that the idea is literally to layer it slowly until you get the desired effect, and that is also what creates the detail. And it's just small, quick strokes with your brush, and then as you do the detailed part, then obviously you would do the strokes a bit more slowly and try and get the actual detail. But it is about just building it within that same area again, going over it again and again. And that's how we that's how it was explained to us when we were doing Persian miniatures. What I did want to show you is the outline before we run out of time. Oh, and also the other thing, I think I added a little bit of gold. Normally I would use real gold in my paintings, and I use gold leaf. And gold leaf can also be crushed down to then create shell gold, which is like paint, and you can apply that like in the centers of this, like here or here, or that little middle petal, you could add gold, like I did on the original painting. On this one, in the center, I added gold. Well, let's take this plastic wallet off it.
Yeah, we can see that.
Yeah. So, but that one's not real gold. It's this one that I used. So if you wanted to add that effect, you can get this, which it kind of gives the effect of like if I had used gold leaf, it would looked quite similar. This is by Talons, and it's just called, it just says deep gold gouache. We'll try it. Let's try it in the center. And there's enough color in the lid. So I'm just going to use a little bit here. I'll show you. Really nice gold, actually. So what happened to my tissue? I know it's dry, so I can put this here so that I don't kind of leave any hand marks on it or anything. The rest of this petal is going to be obviously in ultramarine, those kind of blues.
So usually would you put the gold on as the last layer?
Gold, technically gold always goes on first.
Okay.
But in this kind of painting, because we're not using real gold or anything, it's just gold paint. So it's fine to use it like at this stage as well. But normally when we do a piece of work, we do what is called gilding first, which is the application of gold. Mm-hmm. How long does it usually take you to finish a painting? Where do you usually buy your paints? Okay, Hajra, I get my paints from, my main ones I bought from a shop called Cornelison's in London, because I was in London at the time, so I just went to that. That's a brilliant art shop, by the way. I got them from there. And how long does it take? It depends on the painting. I had somebody had commissioned like a Kaaba painting, which has got flowers all around it. And I think it has been used in MACFEST at some point, somewhere. And basically what it is, I've done a Kaaba in the middle, and then it's got like flowers all around it, and it measures, I don't usually do very big paintings, but this one is like just over 1 meter in length, in width, and then in length, I think it was about 70 centimeters or something, or it might have been bigger, or 80, something like that. So it's like a rectangle, and it's really big as well. And I've done that for somebody's wall. That took about 1.5 years because it's very tiny, tiny flowers. And it was all painted by hand with gouache. And I used real gold leaf, you know, in the middle bit of the Kaaba. Yeah. In fact, I wonder if I can show you a picture of it. I don't have one to hand. However, I could very quickly, have we got time?
We've got 15 more minutes left.
15 more minutes, okay. No, I don't want to eat into our time here, but yeah, so Hajra, I can actually send you a picture of that one later.
Yeah, maybe you can send it to Kezra for her to put up on the MACFEST page for people to have a look at.
So everybody can see that one. That took about 1.5 years to make, and it's currently on a client's wall at the moment. So then I had to get that framed and everything. So I don't know what the total time would have taken. So it was being framed for about over a week. It was with them as well. Okay, thanks. I'm just reading that. I should let you do that, Jo.
I can read things out for you. So how long did it take for you to do this particular painting that you're showing us?
Oh, this which one? The one that I've.
Yes.
Yeah. This was over a few days because I painted it slowly. So, you know, I wanted it to be nice and neat and everything for our workshop. Wanted it to be kind of how shall I show you? Yeah.
Yeah. So anyone who's replicating this can expect to spend about 6 hours on it, maybe? Is that?
Yeah, if you're a fast painter.
Okay, so longer than 6 hours.
Yeah, well, yeah, it depends on the person, to be honest.
Yeah.
You get some people who paint quickly and very neatly, and then you get some people like me who has to take time over everything. So, you know, it just depends. Some artists, like, they'll just produce it really quickly, won't they? They probably would have done the whole painting by now. But some people do actually work very fast. I've seen them on Instagram, unless they fast forward the videos, I don't know, but like they paint so fast, don't they? And I think in reality people do, because I guess you get, if you practice so much and use the right brush, you know exactly what brushes to use, and then you can actually quite, you know, easily, I suppose, maybe within a couple of hours, 2-3 hours. Yeah. Okay, I also, before we go, I wanted to show you about the black outline. So I think we should do that next, because you already kind of know what it's going to look like. You've seen. And I'm going to use like, I had this Parker ink. I'm going to use that. And we use the same palette for now, but wouldn't normally put the ink in something separate. And for this, I'm going to use like a Tensor brush, which I'll show you in a second, but I'm just going to try and take out some. You know what would be really good is to have a dropper for this. I just could not find my dropper, but I've managed to get a little bit of black ink on here. You don't want too much of this because ink just dries out and then it's no good. So just need a little bit. That's it. We're going to use one of our finest brushes, which needs a clean. Okay. So lightly. And you know what's really important, and I actually forgot to tell you, it's because I've gotten used to like just painting all the time that I just forget. But always keep like a sheet of plain paper to always test your paint before. You've seen me applying directly, but that's because I feel, you know, confident to do that. But when you first start, you know, painting, I would recommend, because this is what I used to do, is literally. And especially when you need a lot of practice for doing outline. So I would just practice doing many lines and curves. Wait a second, I'll show you here. So you take your black ink. You need a steady hand. Oh, that way. So if you just practice doing a lot of lines to start with, fine lines. This is a Tensor brush, so that helps. When we're studying, we kind of like fill pages of lines and curves before we actually do our outline. And because sometimes if you're out, you know, like practice or something, yeah, it can go a bit wrong on your painting. Okay, but for now, let's just have a go. And let's outline this one first. So you take a little bit of black ink on your brush, trial it here, and then here. And try and do it in one go, like the one side, because when you're stopping and starting, it won't be as neat. But obviously when I first, I'm getting the shakes a little bit. It's probably because I'm on Zoom. But yeah, it doesn't normally happen. Let's do another one because I kind of made a mess of that one. Let's do one here. So your outline is done last. And you want to go around each formation. And you'll find that the outline actually makes your work stand out more. I do find myself getting closer and closer to the paper when I'm doing this.
All the concentration, you're putting all the energy onto the page.
Yeah. And then, yeah, I end up being too close to it. So before doing the outline on my other piece, I did actually kind of practice doing some shapes on just plain paper first, and then kind of went on to doing that, because the outline can be a little bit tricky. And then even if you did make a mistake, I wouldn't worry too much, because it can be fixed. Everything can be fixed. But it's nice to get it right first time.
That comes with practice, doesn't it? And we've had some comments in the chat actually about everyone's different experiences using ink and having blobs going onto the page. So everyone understands that it takes a lot of practice to get to the point that you're at.
Yeah, definitely. Because I remember the first time I used ink, like it's different consistency, isn't it, from paint and everything. It's really watery, and it just went everywhere. And even now, I know I've got it on my hands. Luckily you can't see it. It's like all over the place here, and I often find it'll be on my top somewhere too. It somehow just seems to splash everywhere, because it is quite watery. And that's why I always say that just maybe keep a piece of paper to hand, so that you can take the excess off like that. So, and then you can just carry on painting. And let's start from this side.
Susan just wanted to comment before we do finish that it's been a really lovely tutorial, and discovering it has given her links to the festival and all the other wonderful events as well. So that's nice, Susan. Thank you for coming today, and really thank you for looking at the other events as well, because MACFEST has a host of amazing events from year on year, and despite it all being digital this year, there is an amazing array of stuff going on and so many different topics in conversation. Yeah. I wonder, Ashfia, if I can take the spotlight off of you for a second. We've had Aisha Yilmaz in the background painting away the whole time. Aisha, would you mind showing us what you've been doing? Can we highlight Aisha so everyone can see what she's been doing? Oh, wow.
Wow. That is amazing. I love it.
Yeah, I am an artist, by the way, but I was already working on another project with the Whitworth Art Gallery. I'm one of their artists, and we normally do work from the exhibition. So I thought this fitted in with my butterflies, and we're doing things like, it's for a community project. So I've done a
beautiful.
So today when I thought, if I'm doing it on paper, I'd just do it on here. And I've used acrylics, so I think watercolor would have been too thin, and it seems to have worked okay.
Lovely. It's been nice watching you as well. Whilst Ashfia's been working, I've also had an eye on you slowly painting away. So it's been really lovely that you had your camera on for us.
Thank you.
That's great.
So if we go back to Ashfia, do you have any last things that you would like to show the audience?
Let's look. Yeah, so let's just show you the outlined. So that's what I don't know if you can.
It makes it pop so much more, doesn't it?
Yeah. And then obviously the one that I prepared earlier. It's easier to show you this one. So the completed one is this one here. So I'm going to try and get it as close as possible so that you can see how I've actually built the colors up. So what we did so far on our paper is just like the first few layers. Because what I've done is I've kind of made it more darker, because in the book it looked it was quite a dark image, color wise. You couldn't even really tell with the blues, but
it's very vibrant, isn't it, on this version?
Yeah. But originally, I guess it would have been vibrant. It's just that over the years, it's probably like faded a bit, and you know, because it was on a wall, that I think in the palace wall, one of the smaller palaces, which has probably now been converted to a hotel or something.
Yeah.
But yeah. So you can see the gold and the outline on that. It's the outline that makes the color pop, like you said. I try and do that. In fact, I do that on all of my paintings.
Because so you're a fan of having an outline on yours rather than having it a bit more washy, which is, you see it a lot in watercolor paintings, don't you? Very much not outlined and more, it tends to make it a bit more abstract, but over here it's nice and defined.
Yeah, it's because of my traditional art studies, and because I'm working on Tahzeeb, it's a required thing, basically. It's something that we have to do. We do outline all our work. So the process is this. So we transfer our pattern. We then add our gold. That's the second thing that we normally do once we've transferred the pattern. And then we paint it. And then we do our outline. Yeah. And when I say add gold, that could be either painting it using shell gold, which we've made through crushing leaves. And in a ceramic dish, you would literally crush them and add some gum arabic, and you grind it down to where it becomes like a bit like a paste. And then you have to remove all the impurities from it, gather all the pure gold and get it into a little pot for yourself to use. And you would then use that in your painting. These days you can buy it as well.
It's easier to buy it.
Buy ready-made shell gold from Istanbul or something, or even in Cornelison's they do blocks of it. So you just need to know how to use it so that you don't ruin it. You just make sure you use like boiled water instead, you know, and make sure your brushes are kept clean, and also use one specific brush for your gold painting. Yeah. And then the other thing that I've showed in past MACFEST workshops is how to actually apply neat gold leaf directly onto the painting. So that is something that we've done before as well. And how we do that is we apply what's called acrylic gold size, which is like a glue type thing to the paper. So we paint that onto the image first in the areas that we want it. We then wait for that to dry. It's a longer process, that's why we didn't do it today. We wait for that to dry, and then we breathe on it to activate it, and then we apply our gold leaf to it. And then we use like a sharp tool, like something like with like a very sharp edge, bit like a scissors, but we use a tool that's kind of a bit like a knife-like thing, but a sharp tool, to then tidy around the edges. And you can use any sharp tool for that. They have so many different things that you can use in your paintings. I picked up.
I'm really sorry, we're going to have to wrap up.
Oh, sorry.
So we're gonna have to pick that up in a whole other workshop.
Yes,
is a little bit of gold leaf gilding.
Yeah.
So I just want to say a big thank you to Ashfia for this amazing workshop. You've had some lovely comments in the chat about how lovely it's been to watch you work and how much people have learned today. I'd also like to thank Kezra and MACFEST, all the volunteers in the background. There are a lot of them there, so well done for this festival and for making all of these events for everyone and so freely available. Just a little bit more about what's going on tomorrow. You can join me at 10:30, where I will be in conversation with Fazla and Khalid about climate change and the faith community. It's part of it's in partnership with Manchester Science Festival as well as MACFEST. And in the afternoon, you can join us again for the multilingual poetry and mushaira performance. So those are two great events going on tomorrow. Thank you again, Ashvia. Thank you all the audience for coming.
I want to just thank you, my lovely lady. You've been super host, mashallah. You kept us going. And you've told them about the events that you are hosting tomorrow. There is one more tonight, if you're able to join us. It's at the Portico. Thank you.
Amazing. So one more tonight. Thank you so much to the audience, and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye, Ashia. And lovely to see you.